Welcome back, YouTube. Goodbye, 2020. Welcome to the show, 2021. Renaissance here with your boy Greg. And true to his promise, owning up to those promises that 2021 gave us, it came in some glorious style, at least for us OSU fans. If you didn't catch it, there was a semifinal playoff game in the college football on Friday, January 1st of 2021. It was between the number three ranked Ohio State Buckeyes and the number two ranked, oh, I'm sorry, the number 11 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes, according to the number two ranked Clemson Tigers. How did that game go? Well, let me tell you as I bask in the glorious sunlight of 2021 on the second. We blew them out. 49-28 it was. Now, I'll be honest, I wasn't this, boisterous and braggadocious a couple days ago or during this season. I rarely made any videos. Probably why you didn't see a video from me in a while. Um, no more bubbles, NBA bubbles. No more Ohio State football canceled games due to COVID because they did say they would reschedule the playoff game in the national championship if there was some protocol that needed to take place in order to postpone the game. Instead of canceling it, they'll push it back. But I digress. No more of that. 2021 promises prosperity instead of dismal, disastrous desolation of 2020. It promises triumph instead of trials and tribulations. Yes, I'm talking about college football at its finest, Ohio State back on top. Now, again, during this year or early in the season, I was skeptical. I didn't know if we were going to have a season. But Trevor Lawrence, kudos to him, the Heisman Trophy, well, one of the Heisman Trophy finalists, and possibly the number one pick going to the draft, the NFL draft, coming up this year. And our quarterback from Ohio State, Justin Fields, got together and campaigned to have this season, despite the challenges that COVID protocol, gave us this year. And kudos to them, they achieved it. Big Ten was a little bit behind. They wanted to start. They at first they weren't even going to have a season, and then they just postponed the season and started in either late September or October, which didn't fare well for us. We had less games than scheduled than other conferences, and there was a minimum amount of games that you needed to play, let alone win, in order to get into the college playoffs. But Big Ten found a way. We found a way around that, and thus that leads us into Clemson's coach, Dabo Sweeney, ranking us 11 so, for some reason. If you need a reminder, we were in the college playoffs last year in the semifinals against, I believe, a number three ranked Clemson, while we were number two, Ohio State, that is. And it was a very competitive game in the end, and we lost a last second interception by our quarterback, Justin Fields. That left a bad taste in our mouth, let alone being ranked 11th coming into the game. Um, which again brings me back to Dabo Sweeney's point, which is a good point. We didn't play that many games this season. How good were we really? And when you look at the tape, we weren't all that consistent. Trevor Lawrence has been consistent for the most part this year, being a Heisman Trophy front runner, I'll say, as far as votes or trajectory goes. And Justin Fields was right up there. After his first game, they had him number in the top three in the Heisman Trophy rankings. But then we played Indiana, who had a very good offense and our first tricky defense we played all year. And Justin Fields threw three interceptions. Now, I believe we had a not a bye week, but there was a game canceled prior to that I believe led to some rust. And then going into the other only decent team we played in the Big Ten championship, Northwestern Wildcats, he threw, I believe, three more interceptions. So I believe he's out of the Heisman race. With that being said, you have Trevor Lawrence looking great. You're falling out of Heisman contention. We're trying to get into the playoff. Clemson, after getting their quarterback back after only one loss this season without Trevor Lawrence against Notre Dame, stomped Notre Dame. So other than the loss, which I I attribute to him not being present, you can say they're an undefeated team that beats most of their competition by 30 or 40 points. The same with Alabama, which we'll get to. So going into this game, our defense was shoddy. We lost our defensive coordinator, mind you, to a head coaching job at Boston College. Boston College, with that new head coach from OSU, got blown out. Well, they got handled by Clemson without their starting quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. So again, we have a shoddy defense because that defensive coordinator left for the Boston College job, and our number one or number one ranked corner, um, Wade, didn't look that great this year either. So DBs aren't looking that good. They're young. The DBs that were playing for us last year when we were very competitive with Clemson, all of them went to the draft, high in the draft, mind you. We have young secondary. We have a defense coordinator in Kerry Combs who wasn't really scheming up to snuff or what we expected. So there was a lot of reasons to not think we were going to fare that well against Clemson. But let me tell you how we did fare. Justin Fields, who threw three interceptions in his previous game against Northwestern Wildcats, threw for six touchdowns and one interception. He was 22 for 28 for over 350 yards. Now, Trevor Lawrence didn't shy away from competition. I believe he had 400 yards of offense. But what it really came down to is our game scheme. Ryan Day's coaching, fantastic. Ryan Justin Fields not looking like the quarterback people saw the previous weeks, but more like that Heisman Trophy finalist who should be drafted high this upcoming NFL draft. Some of the mistakes he was making during the season, um, watching his receivers not checking down, not going different options, holding the ball too long in the backfield. He wasn't making those mistakes. He was making quick decisions. He was going through his progressions. He would look off DBs and safeties and throw accurate deep balls. He was elusive. He ran. He took a big shot early in the game when we were going up, similar to how we did last year. And to his credit, and basically, according to the legend, he came back stronger. There's plenty of times where this guy got hurt in games and came back like Paul Pierce did in the finals against the Lakers. He looked great. And the sleeper, Trey Sermon, the transfer for Oklahoma, fantastic. I believe he had 200 or more yards. So it was a well balanced victory. We manhandled them, and mind you, last year when we lost early on, the commentators were saying this very same thing. It looked like Clemson almost didn't belong in the field with us, but we made young mistakes. We had a first time head coach in Ryan Day. We had a first time starter in Justin Fields, who was a transfer from Georgia. We had a lot going on. And competing against the big dogs who have probably been to college playoff semifinals or at least in the playoffs for the last 3 or 4 years. They had beat Alabama, for God's sakes. But I just think it all came down to being underestimated. I believe the failures we had or the I don't know, the flaws that you saw in Ohio State early in the year really were a result of rust. I would say they were a result of rust. And when you give two teams the same amount of time to prepare and you have equal talent out there, I'm going to pick Ohio State Buckeyes, which brings me, to us playing Alabama. Before Dabo Sweeney, there was Urban Meyer. There was only one guy that can contend with this juggernaut in Nick Saban at Alabama. Um, Not only is Ohio State able to compete with them, but I think we have the number one recruiting class going into 2021. That never happens. No one ever beats Alabama in recruiting. And I mean, again, it started with Urban Meyer, who was a coach at Florida and won two national championships in Florida in the same SEC that Nick Saban was in. And he lost some games in Nick Saban. It was him first, and he went to Ohio State, and he put in place Ryan Day. He saw something. We're just continuing with this mode. We want to keep things at a zenith. We want to recruit the best, we want to coach the best, and we want to continue to improve. It's the sign of an elite blue chip program. And you get the right talent, you get the right staff, get the right coaching, you get the right funding, you keep the culture, you bring in good kids, and you see what happens. Ohio State is going to play Alabama, number one ranked in the country, in the national championship on January 11th, and I will not miss it. You shouldn't miss it either. As you can see, underdog ain't nothing to us. Renaissance. I'm out.